Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me clear my throat because clearly we have a fantastic day of Gauntlet action. My name's Tom Battinger, joined here by Ron Jobbert. How you doing today?
That was smooth, and I'm really excited to be here. That's it. That's all I really want to say.
Well, we have a fantastic day set for you, like we said, the Gauntlet. This is what we're going to get into today as we see these teams really struggle to really make it to the top, but you're already at the top. You can have fun at home. 3 times Worshippers this weekend.
3 times Worshippers. As you can see in this graphic, we have on the left Susanoo wearing his legendary skin, and on the right we have Hachiman in his brand new diamond skin. Came out this patch. And really, when it comes to that, 3 times Worshippers, if you only play these characters, it might go even higher.
Yeah, the Worshipper is certainly going to allow you to win some of the free stuff, so you don't have to actually fight for it yourself. However, unfortunately, tickets to HRX are not free, but you certainly want them. hi-rezexpo.com, get some tickets yourself.
You should definitely go to hi-rez expo. Granted, Tom unfortunately let everybody know that the tickets are not free, so you do have to pay human money. But when it comes to HRX, you should definitely go. Even if you're alone, I've said a million times, you should definitely go and make some friends.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Friends, we're all friends here, except for me and Ron. I watched the episode of The Caster, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah. You were rude, crude, and socially unacceptable.
Do you actually believe that?
Yes. Today, we have the Gauntlet, which is a little bit more fun. I'm a little kidding. A little kidding.
I'm a tiny kidding.
A little kidding. But we do have a big game number 1. So the Gauntlet, for those of you that are unfamiliar, essentially the top 4 teams of each region qualify, and they're going to be found at the Super Regionals. Well, for those teams that have not made it, there is still a shot in the dark. Everybody has to climb an incredible ladder, starting out from below 8th seed. We've actually invited a Challenger Cup team. The teams that are at the top get to fight against seed number 8, and the winner will fight against seed number 7, etc. We have split the tournament into 2 separate days, so today we're just going to see the first 2 sets on your screen. Burrito eSports and VictoriouSecret, and the Poppies will play the winner of that. After that, we'll head into North America. But Burrito versus VictoriouSecret, what can you tell us?
When you look at Burrito versus VictoriouSecret, I would imagine that most of the time you would say, I don't know who these teams are, because Burrito, they're an 8th seed, and they did take some, they beat Energy, they took some wins off of some bigger teams, but they definitely have the opportunity to win these games and kind of just climb the ladder. VictoriouSecret is not a newer team. A lot of players that people would know, Gorgonzolla, Mr. Stefan, FrostiaK, those kinds of players, they can definitely make some waves too. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. VictoriouSecret, I'll just go ahead and read you the roster. Some names you might be familiar with, like you said, Mr. Stefan. There's also FrostiaK in the jungle. We're going to see Julio69 over there in the solo lane. Gorgonzolla and Spudio will make up the duo, so it's going to be an interesting group here. What do you expect out of FrostiaK specifically? Because he's an ex-pro that a lot of people know. FrostiaK, even though he statistically leads the SPL in deaths ever, is still a good player. He has a tendency to play very aggressive, which can win you these games in this meta. Playing very aggressive and getting the upper hand and getting these early game gods and, invades and off is very common, and if you can do that well, you can mostly win. Do you think that Dzoni has what it takes to really dance with him? I think so, because we've seen Dzoni, I would argue, be Burrito's best player. Dzoni has that ability to hard carry, especially most people, if you have seen his other games, the Ao Kuang, that kind of thing. Like, he busts out the late game carries, and he says, even if we don't win early, I can still Dzoni it up in, past 45. Exactly, and when I look at this roster for VictoriouSecret, these guys seem to, I don't see these late game carries. Gorgonzolla previously was a substitute for some of the teams that we saw here, and we see that sort of like middle game type of guy that likes to do what he can and sort of bring the noise when it comes time to fight. But as far as being that super carry that's going to bring the game like Dzoni does, I'm not sure if I see that on this roster. But like we said, these Challenger Cup teams have a tendency to sort of hide in the shadows. So if you're trying to expect the unexpected, Ron, where are you looking? I'm looking at Mr. Stefan. I think he has a very potent ability to hard carry, and he can play pretty much any mage regardless of what standing in the game you want to play for. If you want to play the early game, Mr. Stefan can do that with maybe even a Poseidon or something like that. But then if you want to play the late game, Mr. Stefan has a great Thoth, and it really just adds up.
Yeah, I've really liked his play. Mr. Stefan has been one of the stronger players, I think, in that bottom half of the league, watching Europe in general, seeing him on a Challenger Cup team. I'm excited. I think that this matchup between Burrito could be an interesting one to watch, and I say could be. I think that we might see the Challenger team move on, which is actually really interesting. If they do, they'll be headed on to Poppies, and don't worry, I'll ask you what you feel about that later. But let's talk Poppies right now. Poppies, certainly, are they activated, is the question that everybody's asking, but how much are they activated? We've seen this team look fantastic, and then we've seen this team kind of drop the ball. So as we look forward to this match specifically, what Poppies is going to show up?
I think in every game that the Poppies have played, even when they've won or lost, they don't have the tendency to end very cleanly. And a lot of the time, they win these fights and they get a wipe so late in the game that the respawn timers give them the win.
Sure.
The Poppies, I think, if they need to progress in this gauntlet, they need to learn how to end. And that's like the most important thing. Granted, that sounds generic, like they need to learn how to kill the Titan, but the Poppies definitely need to learn how to, I don't know, play earlier and get that win like condition a lot earlier.
Who do you think the Poppies have a better matchup against? Would the Poppies rather see Burrito make it through or VictoriouSecret?
Well, we did just see the Poppies beat Burrito, even in a tiebreaker, to give them the 7th seed. They had to play Burrito to get above them in the seeding. And I think Burrito, based on how they've been performing, could lose in a best-of-3 against the Poppies, and Mr. Stefan and the VictoriouSecret, they could pull out some surprises and do anything. And the Poppies, I don't think they would be prepared to play the VictoriouSecret like at all.
All right, so VictoriouSecret, you actually think the underdog might be the better opposition, but right away, Burrito, VictoriouSecret, who's taking it?
I'm going to call a 2-1 VictoriouSecret.
All right, so Ron's got his money on the Challengers. Commentators is going to be guest commentator John Finch, and of course our very own Anatoly.
Thank you, Tom. It is John Youngling Finch here, Rip Me on the caster, joined with Anatoly. Anatoly, you ready for this gauntlet to get kicked off?
I'm ready for this gauntlet. You know, just to put it all aside here, I was rooting for you.
Thank you, Anatoly.
Forget
that
Ron.
means so much to me. Yeah. So much. But we got a great matchup here. As they said on the desk, it's a lot of names that if you've been hanging around for a moment, you actually might recognize over there on VictoriouSecret.
That's true. FrostiaK is the one key player out of VictoriouSecret that I'm really looking at. This jungle matchup against Dzoni, it's going to be very dynamic. Both of these two players love to play very aggressive.
That's exactly right. Every time we see them do really well, and by that I mean Burrito, it's been a lot of on Dzoni and the way he's been playing. So let's go ahead and get those picks and bans up here. See if they make FrostiaK and Dzoni the focus in this game. Try and get them on something they can hard carry on, because we know Dzoni can do it.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the strategy that both of these teams try to employ. Is try to get their jungler ahead from the early get-go. And a lot of teams are starting to employ a strategy where there's a very aggressive jungler. On top of that jungler, there's going to be an aggressive solo laner trying to control that side of the map. Control the blue, control the speed, try to get momentum off of the early game.
And that's something we see a lot more of. I would say not just this whole season, but this split in particular, the jungle solo matchup, the way that 2v2 goes down, so important. What is it about that solo lane side of the map that's so important early?
It's because warriors in the early level 1 and 2 have a good balance between health, resilience, and tankiness, as well as just their damage output between their in-hands and their abilities, that they're able to really outbox any non-warrior. So you're really looking for the strongest warrior-assassin combination potentially from that solo jungle. Try to get maybe even a first blood, or at least do enough damage to force them to back to get some more control in that area.
And there we go. We see an aggressive solo laner get picked up first for Burrito. But I want to talk about this ban we're seeing from Burrito, Ratatosker. That's something that we've seen be a little more valuable lately.
The thing about Ratatosker that really makes an impact here in the SPL is the counter-engage opportunity. He can be almost anywhere on the map. You use that global pressure, and then whatever gank you weren't a part of, all of a sudden, there you are, saving your teammates.
Absolutely. Chulainn locked in. So there we go. Another high-pressure solo laner, just like you've been saying this whole time, Toli. That's going to be locked in to go with the soul for VictoriouSecret, as Burrito focused more towards that dual lane with Fafnir and Jing.
It's an interesting mix thus far from Burrito, not wanting to commit to their jungler quite yet. Granted, it could be an Osiris jungler that has some flex opportunity, but more often than not, that will be employed in the solo lane, trying to kind of outbox the opposition. Whereas VictoriouSecret also has some questions in the air with that Chulainn, doesn't know yet if it's solo or jungle.
We do see Alquang being banned away, almost certainly a shot at Dzoni is that Ao Kuang ban, as well as Serked. So that really seems to be a focal point.
The way Johnny can play this Ao Kuang is almost unmatched by a lot of other players. Even like Adapting, for example, will not play the Ao Kuang specifically because either he's just not practiced it too much or he's not comfortable with it. But Johnny's comfortable with this god. He's comfortable with a lot of aggressive gods.
We got Hercules coming in for VictoriouSecret here, totally, with Chulainn already picked up for him. Where do you think we're going to see this Herc go?
This Hercules should more than likely be in that solo lane. You're really looking to just clear the wave and then make those rotations happen once you get beyond level 9, and then especially once you get level 12 before most other gods to get that second important team fighting relic.
Vulcan and Nemesis picked up, so big time damage coming out from the mid laner on Vulcan, and then Nemesis, a good matchup into Ymir as well. So talk to me about Ymir being picked with Nemesis as the last one for Burrito.
The whole idea here is to, whenever the shield comes up, you freeze to kind of strip away that health shield, and on top of that, the wall, more importantly. You're looking at the composition from Burrito. Fafnir can jump over it, Osiris can walk through it if he has his passive up or ulti through it, but normally that Ymir wall is trying to block the Nemesis pathing from either chasing or getting away.
And I want to ask you, as we do have, all 5 of our roster selected here, we're ready to start getting into the game 1 here between Burrito and VictoriouSecret. We don't see Erlong Shen picked or banned in that phase. Are you surprised at all by his absence?
Not necessarily, because this is a best of 3. This could be teams still feeling each other out for the moment. They're picking what's comfortable for them. Sibi loves the Osiris. Julio69 feels comfortable with this counter matchup of the Hercules. He's not meant to really box, but he's not going to be in a position that he's going to get bullied, because Sibi has to respect the level 2 pull-push combination potential under that tower.
And FrostiaK's looking to go aggressive. At least that's my call here. He's got Chulainn in the jungle, but he's also picked up that Blink relic, totally.
It seems that he does want to play aggressive with that relic, simply what the level 5 play will allow you to do. You blink into the backline, you find the multiple god knock-up, really allowing the rest of your team to follow up. And if we're looking at VictoriouSecret composition, they have so much crowd control as opposed to Burrito that has this Vulcan middle. Like, who's going to set up this Vulcan? There are a lot of slows, but not any hard crowd control.
That Vulcan, it's going to be a lot of pressure on FaraKrik to make sure he can land those big-time ultimates. As you said, they do have a lot of slows, do Burrito, but not really like the lockdown that you expect. Perhaps they're going to be relying on Fusify to try and set that up a little bit more for him, as we do see the Guardian start in the middle lane, and this time they let the AD carry solo farm. Sometimes we see him come over and help out in the mid just to get that jungle pressure.
It's very important to try to get mid pressure, to try to rotate after the fact and look to put pressure on the speed buff. Burrito able to 4-man group on the right side, making it difficult for VictoriouSecret to respond on the right, but Spudio tried to make a play on the left by stealing away the red from Kespainify, wasn't able to get there in time, but did strip away some gold under that tower.
And was able to get the pressure in lane. So now we see him rotating back just to go secure his own red buff, as FaraKrik takes a little more poke than he bargained for there in mid. Between Mr. Stefan on the Soul and FaraKrik on this Vulcan, who do you favor for that early pressure?
There's a lot more space control for VictoriouSecret. Ymir and Soul. You got the ice and the fire. There goes the freeze. Fusify not going to get followed up because Mr. Stefan used that Stellar Burst to clear the wave. And the beautiful matchup here for Stefan is the fact that he can Stellar Burst on top of the wave and hit the turret at the same time.
And that lets them go over towards that mid Harpies just a little bit before Burrito were able to get in place. I think we saw Fusify jump over to try and contest, but we do see them a little bit ahead. Fusify still level 2 for the moment, but likely going to turn over pretty quickly once he gets a few more minions.
That's unfortunate, because a level 4 Fafnir versus a level 5 Ymir, that's a telling point of when a teamfight can pop off at any moment. A Ymir ultimate versus a non-Fafnir ultimate, without the ultimate from Fafnir on Fusify, if he jumps in, he's going to die instantly. Gorgonzolla has the damage output with the rest of his teammates to blow up that Guardian.
And we saw over in the duo lane as, again, another fight for these Oracles goes down. They end up splitting them evenly, so good for Burrito to be able to defend those despite Spudio rotating over. But we even saw a little bit of, freezing the wave coming out from Kespainify over there in that duo lane.
That's what you really need to do as a hunter. The fact that he got outpushed at level 2, but then Spudio had to keep up with the red buff tempo because he delayed his, that allowed Kespainify now to deny some gold in return to Spudio, but the experience per minute here is still favoring out Spudio by a smidge.
And VictoriouSecret were able to rotate over, pick up those fire elementals without really too much of an issue. So that's going to be a little bit more of an advantage they're going to have over here in the solo. We do see Julio already level 5 at this point, and his opponent already level 5 too, but just a little bit more they're going to be able to get up over Sibi in that long lane.
A little surprising to see him at level 5, considering how often FrostiaK was sharing the waves with him. It seems that the elementals going the way there of VictoriouSecret, a slight edge, but either way, because he backed early on now, this allows Sibi to get this lane control, clearing the wave early first, denying some important gold potentially under this tower.
And I like the relic choices that we're seeing come out from VictoriouSecret totally. We talked about how Burrito don't really have any lockdown. It's mostly a lot of slows. They picked up 2 sprints already. And
that's a very important to counter the slows like you mentioned before, because it does cleanse away the slows. And once you do upgrade that, giving you the gas pedal effect. So it's very important to negate to keep your hyper carries alive in the back line. Sibi, because he did his delay back after Julio, he was able to come back to base with a fully complete warrior tabby, whereas only tier 2 for the Hercules.
And we saw a little bit of backing in the mid lane from VictoriouSecret, so Burrito were able to rotate over, get those right side mid harpies first, and clear the wave evenly with them. Now rotating back to try and secure their own speed buff.
And the only reason why I bring up the boot comparison earlier on was because that could have opened the door for Burrito to make a play at VictoriouSecret's speed buff, that one power spike play, but instead playing very safe, playing very conservative, not wanting to overextend and give up first blood.
FrostiaK hears the hammer comes out on the Mr. Stefan. He does blink in the wall, at least separates him from FaraKrik, but it's Dzoni the one who's in trouble. He's having to come out already. The shield's enough, though, to get him out.
The freeze was perfectly timed because it caught Dzoni during the first dash, forcing the beats this early on. Now the timer for VictoriouSecret has been mentioned to the rest of their teammates. They're going to be looking to probably exploit Dzoni during this 140-second beats cooldown.
It's going to be a while before he has that back up to get him out of any more crowd control. FrostiaK trying to help secure those elementals, but I believe they were taken by VictoriouSecret. That's FrostiaK just using that Rage Form ultimate to help clear those out.
Fusify jumping in there, trying to steal the elementals, but more importantly, proccing his Traveler shoes on those 2 gods, getting 60 gold there. And that's a good thing for a support player that really needs to try to keep up in itemization choices. Whereas Gorgonzolla, former coach here for Energy, going for the reinforced Greaves. This is something that Raffer would do every now and then, where he's trying to build himself more tanky, more resilient, and just absorb these cooldowns, because if anyone knows how much focus fire a support can take, it's definitely Raffer, and that kind of transition here for Gorgonzolla.
And we were talking a little bit about the build pass that these 2 teams are going. We saw with Burrito for FaraKrik, he's decided to go that Book of Thoth start rather than go with, like Mr. Stefan's going with it straight into the Shoes of Focus to try and get that extra pin damage. Actually, Fusify into the ultimate. Gorgonzolla responds with his shard device to try and grant some CC immunity. Kespainify stands in the sun's way too long, but it's Fusify who falls first, going to Spudio.
Reinforced Greaves right there. That just goes to show it. Gorgonzolla survived and Fusify didn't. Greed did not pay off for the Dwarf this time around. And this first blood now for Spudio is huge. For a Hunter to be able to do that, now you're going to be having more Devo Glove stacks. You're going to be looking to make that very important Executioner power spike play, and then maybe look for a 1v1.
It's rough for that whole duo side because Gorgonzola's already been getting a little bit ahead of Fusify, just been farming a little bit better than Fusify has so far in this match. So now what we're going to be seeing is Gorgonzolla continuing to move around the map and try and use a little bit of that early lead. Where do you want to see him put that focus?
The early game lead can't really be used quite yet unless there's going to be another early game aggression here from Burrito, but instead it's going to be looking to be very patient as buffs have respawned. If anything, I would have liked to see more sort of aggression around the buffs from either side, but at this time it's just kind of safe and standard. There's going to be some action around these elementals, but it seems like Burrito doesn't want to push forward.
And I was going to say earlier, you know, we saw the Book of Thoth start come out from FaraKrik, but then the gank in middle lane from VictoriouSecret, it went on to Dzoni instead. He ends up having his beads forced out. Do you want to see more pressure on FaraKrik?
It's difficult to really put pressure on FaraKrik if he's just going to sit in the middle lane without making any rotation in the jungle. Against a Ymir, it's very difficult to put yourself exposed like that, so I'd rather see him play it safe than sorry. VictoriouSecret are just waiting for that one moment that FaraKrik's going to be left alone in the jungle.
That's what they're looking to try and punish the start, as it doesn't really have as much sustain as Mr. Stefan might have right now, but as long as he plays, like you said, with that positioning, he should be okay, especially with his ultimate. It does a lot of damage. He's able to use it from further away, so it benefits that safer position that we've seen from him so far.
It's also very important for him to kind of stay out of the action in this early game. While he's still this Vulcan early game, he needs the levels to do the damage between his meatball backfire combination. Not only that, building into the Book of Thoth before finishing off Boots, he's just going to be playing kind of Farmville Simulator here, trying to build those stacks.
Now, we do have those oracles coming back on the map pretty soon. That's one more area where we're likely to see them group up. Maybe just have a little bit of a spat. Maybe not too big of an engagement, but it's some neutral farm for these two teams to try and strip away from the other.
Still not wanting to put pressure onto that solo lane. That could be one exploit that Dzoni could look to do. Once that dash from Julio is down on the right side after clearing the wave, use that Nemesis ultimate, get the speed reduction, and then try to force the kill. Or if not the kill, at least the sprint.
Sprint came out. Dzoni already under a lot of trouble. The Retribution ultimate comes out, though, in return. But it's Gorgonzolla teaming up to take down Dzoni, who falls immediately. Fusify now the next one that's in trouble, able to jump over the wall, still in that dragon form. 2-0 for VictoriouSecret so far.
The challenger team making the plays happen in the early game. The question is, can they transition this lead a little bit further? Kespainify forcing the beast from Spudio. Didn't want to get knocked up there because during that travel time of up and down in the sky, that's 2 in-hands from a level 11 Jing wave.
And talk to me a little bit about that fight, too, because Dzoni, when he rotates in on the back side of that team fight, ends up getting collapsed on. And even though he had Spudio, the Spudio's ultimate was on top of him, that's what did so much damage.
It's just too difficult for a Nemesis here against the composition from VictoriouSecret, like we talked about before. The control is just endless almost. You got the knockup from FrostiaK, even Supernova can knock you up. The freeze, the wall from Gorgonzolla, the slows repeatedly from Spudio. The sprint was also popped early on from VictoriouSecret from Gorgonzolla, trying to chase down Dzoni, not allowing him to leave.
And at this point, VictoriouSecret have managed to push the gold lead to about 1,500. We're 10 minutes into the game now, so that's not the same as if maybe it were like 4 or 5 minutes. So it's not too big as the ultimate comes out from Julio just to try and clear some of that wave, proxying a little bit more. But this is VictoriouSecret now trying to push their lead, or trying to build it a little bit. Surprising
to see him sprint away. I think he was really afraid that Dzoni was right around the corner with that Nemesis ultimate, but not able to really do anything because the speed buff is right there. He missed some of the minions there, not able to really find it, but Sibi's going to get plugged back in.
Sibi is under pressure from Julio and FrostiaK. Ultimate comes up to knock him up out of FrostiaK. He has to use his own just to jump away to Sibi, but Dzoni was lurking in the jungle. That's enough to get him to force them to fall back.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Sibi using his ultimate earlier on. If he had that ultimate after that little engagement, could have potentially looked for the lethal blow onto Sibi, but instead, Sibi's going to be thinking his lucky stars. He's going to back to finish off that Gladiator shield, and now he's going to get a lot more return for every ability cast.
And FrostiaK went right into his own Gladiator shield before even finishing out those Warrior Tabi. Wanted to make sure he got a little bit of extraness, a little bit of extra like protections online.
More resiliency is also very important for a jungler, especially a Warrior jungler looking to make the blink initiation plays.
They're going for the Portal Demon. No, they drop it. They recognize the rotation from Burrito was too quick. Fusify, Dzoni, and FaraKrik were all here, and they had to be wary of them coming in for the steal.
Very fishy play from VictoriouSecret. Burrito recognizing, like, hey, nobody's visible on the map. We got Gold Fury covered. Where are they?
Freeze coming out into Dzoni one more time, forces his beads. Gorgonzolla, though, was the one that absorbed the ultimate from FaraKrik. Able to get out of there without too much trouble, but now Burrito are grouping up around the Gold Furies. They take these oracles.
A lot of ultimates being used there. 3 from Burrito trying to kill Gorgonzolla, and he was still left at half health. He's going to back to base and then look to make this rotation, and off of this one play from Burrito, that can open the door for Burrito trying to look for a Gold Fury play of their own.
They do end up backing up. Burrito not feeling confident going for it, but totally. I want to talk a little bit more about that Portal Demon pull that we saw come out from VictoriouSecret. I like the call, but I feel like you really maybe didn't like it too much as the wall, the boulder actually comes up over the wall from Julio.
And it steals away the blue buff there. Sibi's not going to have it, doing a little bit of damage also to this Osiris. It's going to strip away some golden experience. It's not that big of a play, but it's an important one enough to try to snowball off of.
I think it is a pretty big play. I got to agree with you. Not just taking the farm, but he even goes and is eventually able able to pick it up too, so going to help out a little bit more with that mana. He did pick up that Breastplate of Valor, so his mana pool is already a lot bigger, just because not only the protections it gives, but it gives you a ton of mana, it feels like, on that item. So Julio's ready to stick it out.
And don't forget about that cooldown reduction you get from the Breastplate, from the mana buff, that you're really trying to look for those spam pull push opportunities. And with VictoriouSecret clearing this mid wave, they're going to position themselves with sentry wards around the Gold Fury. This is what you need to do. Once you clear the mid wave, look for those aggressive wards, especially sentries around the Harpies, and then look for a baiting play.
And that's what they're doing, trying to get them in the wall to separate them. But Fusify, undeterred, continues to push forward, has to jump back as that meatball actually landed on 3 members.
Unfortunately, though, it was only about level 1 or 2 meatball, so not doing too much damage here. The rest of VictoriouSecret still applying pressure on the mid lane. Fusify recognizing this, waiting for something to happen.
Unable to find anything over the wall, but I like that he's hanging around looking for a way to jump in and provide a little bit of setup. We talked already about how FaraKrik with his big ultimate is going to have a harder time setting it up. They don't have a whole lot of lockdown. Fusify was trying to get something going.
There's still a ticking time bomb window for Burrito because that Vulcan damage is going to start getting really scary really quickly, and VictoriouSecret are surviving it for the moment, but there's only so much magical defense you can purchase in the game.
It might be a little bit longer than we were expecting. Even FaraKrik choosing to go with, it looks like, a defensive route. Likely going to be going that Hide of the Urchin, which you see be pretty popular.
And that's not a bad idea considering he is going to get dove by FrostiaK. That blink is going to allow him to just cut the distance effortlessly, not to mention Gorgonzolla is going to cut off the efforts from FaraKrik with that wall. So surviving as a Vulcan to maybe get off one additional rotation of abilities is going to allow one more knockup, and that one potential displacement could look for an easy kill opportunity.
Another rotation of skills, in a way, is still a lot of power. In a certain way, they're told us. I certainly like that logic or that way of looking at it. Stick around in those team fights and be able to continue to help out your team. VictoriouSecret now up about 2,000 gold or so, up still 2-0 in the kills. We approach 15 minutes. We haven't seen any major objectives go down just yet. Good ricochet, though, coming out, putting some damage on the Fusify and Dzoni. FrostiaK's here, though, looping around the back.
Oh, wow.
That Divine Judgment was huge. FrostiaK already getting taken down. Fusify getting credit for that first one, and now backing off for Burrito.
Having to jump away. A lot of ultimates being used, but the kill was there. FrostiaK a little bit out of position there. He's been known to make these aggressive plays, but unfortunately for him, he was standing right on top of a ward. Burrito knew it the whole time. After that one initial setup from the stun from Fusify, the knockup from Kespainify, additionally with the Nemesis ultimate, was just too much damage for this level 12 Chulainn to really handle.
And I like that bodes well for Burrito's shot calling. The call was pretty clearly to go in and put that damage on the FrostiaK when he comes in to that fight, and that's what everyone followed up on. Now, though, VictoriouSecret starting up the Gold Fury. This one's going to be free. No one from Burrito's even close by. So the Gold Fury does go down in favor of VictoriouSecret, despite Burrito getting a pick.
Normally, whenever the team finds the pick, that's the team that starts the Gold Fury, but not wanting to pull the trigger. Too much hesitation from this SPL team. Maybe respecting the challenger team a little bit too much here. And VictoriouSecret, they're here to play. They found the first 2 kills of the game, and they found the first important objective.
And that's something I want to talk about, too. VictoriouSecret, yes, they're the Challenger Cup team, but they do have some people who've been around the scene for a while, so they're not going to be afraid to make calls like what we just saw. If they can tell no one's around the Gold Fury, Burrito have to back, they're not afraid to go for it.
It's all about the vision control, and look at those left side mid Harpies, top and bottom, controlled by VictoriouSecret. The veteran experience from FrostiaK definitely relaying a lot of information in terms of timings and windows, and a level 16, 17 Hu-Yi that had Executioner just now finishing off Chin Size is a lot of burst damage to be able to burst down that Gold Fury, and Ymir support, it just adds on top.
Wall coming out from Gorgonzolla to help them secure those mid Harpies. We're seeing a shift over here to the Stone Lane side of the map for this exact reason. Now that Gold Fury's down, Portal Demon is going to be the call. VictoriouSecret, though, recognize there's too much of Burrito around, and they just go ahead and back off.
And VictoriouSecret love to fight in the jungle here. That Ymir wall is going to cut off so many options, so Burrito has to be very mindful about their positioning, about the angles that they approach from, not wanting to commit all their eggs under one basket, because that one Ymir wall can dissect the teamfight into 2.
And speaking of angles, it actually has a lot of synergy with the rest of their kit, as FrostiaK is here to try and keep Fusify from contesting that buff. That Ymir wall can set up Spudio with his ricochet, as well as Julio can get a bounce off of his ultimate as well. That Boulder can bounce back in and hit members again. So they've got a lot of chance if they use that wall effectively to really get off good damage.
Damage amplification is pretty nice as well. Still looking to play aggressive, preventing VictoriouSecret from getting in here. But 4 members now stand strong against another 4. Both Hunters were about to make a rotation, kind of considering their options. We're seeing a little bit of aggression here as Kespainify is going to start up the Oracles. Underneath is Spudio, though. He's looking to flank.
Yeah, Spudio's going to get here first. Gorgonzolla already charging that shard device. Dzoni has to use the Aegis early, but his call is on the Mr. Stefan, who has to use his Aegis to get away in the back. Damage returns back on the Fusify, very low. Going real far forward, though, as FrostiaK gets that ultimate out, but nothing comes from it. Everyone just real low from Burrito.
Forcing out the shell, though, was really key. That's a big, important cooldown for the next objective. The Gold Fury is going to respawn here very soon-ish here. Portal Demon could still be a nice little option from VictoriouSecret if they look to go for that with all the ultimates down.
And Fusify sticking around despite the low health bar, but it looks like everyone's going to back off. No need to go for any big calls right this exact moment. So VictoriouSecret, as you said, they do get a couple of important relics down, but they did use a lot of their own too. So we probably won't see any more big engagements, at least for the moment. Gold Fury, when that does respawn, could very well be the next call from these 2 teams.
I really enjoyed what Spudio did there at the beginning of that engagement, just wrapping around underneath, recognizing the action was about to happen in the mid lane, and a lot of players will kind of hesitate to make that rotation play, instead will want to go upside, but because he went underneath like that, he forced a very early Aegis from Dzoni, and then he had to kind of reroute himself, and that ultimate from Ho Yi, everyone from Burrito has to play around that one ability.
And it also means it's just a little bit of time while you're using that Aegis. As you see, we do have a real brief pause coming out here where they're not able to go in and continue to use abilities. While you're using it, you can't cast anymore or do anything like that. So that's just a little bit of time where Dzoni couldn't get back there, Mr. Stefan, and clean that kill up.
And it's so difficult for Dzoni right now to look for that right angle and opportunity. However, his items are going to get a lot more stronger, though, as the game progresses. He's going to be able to, honestly, 2 to 3 shot, potentially, the soul once the game progresses.
And it kind of feels like it's a bit of a race for me here between Dzoni on that Nemesis and then FaraKrik on that Vulcan. When those two get to that late game form, it's going to be really tough to deal with. So kind of who gets there first and who can have the bigger impact.
That's why FaraKrik is going a little bit of a tanky option here. But unfortunately for him, though, that Nemesis ultimate will still shred through the protections, still take a percentage of your health, no matter how resilient you really are.
We do see that Gold Fury coming up in about 1 more minute, trying to create some space. Is Gorgonzolla there in the mid lane? FaraKrik actually pretty low, has to back off, actually returning to base. So now there's a 4-man rotation over to Sibi in right, but it looks like he might have been able to get away from it just barely in time, but they've cleared up space, and now they're starting the Portal Demon.
They need to, because Sibi's at half health. It's a technical 4.5 against 5. The blink from FrostiaK trying to get in there.
Didn't really get much out of it. It does end up going the Portal Demon the way of VictoriouSecret. Fusify, though, is jumping in. Ultimate from FaraKrik comes over the top. Doesn't quite get it what he was looking for, as now Fusify's in that dragon form. He dashes in as well, but a good job pushing Dzoni back into trouble. Fusify, though, is the one that ends up falling. Boulder comes through, and that's going to bring Kespainify low. Good wall, but over the top comes Kespainify.
Kespainify being able to avoid that over the wall there. Really important play from VictoriouSecret there. They got the Portal Demon. The chase from Burrito was on, recognizing that FrostiaK was slightly out of position. This is a very bold and ambitious call here, but Gorgonzola's zoning away FrostiaK.
But who
spots out Dzoni. I don't think anyone's going to be able to steal it.
That's a great call, VictoriouSecret. Who could steal it from Burrito in that engagement? FaraKrik already used the Earthbreaker or Shatter. His big ultimate. There was really no one who could come in. He was being zoned out. Was Dzoni as well in that engagement? VictoriouSecret, not just the Portal Demon, the Fire Giant too. Now our Challenger Cup team looking like they're the ones in control.
What a way to start off game number 1 for this Challenger team. We saw what Oxygen Supremacy was able to do during the Gauntlet back in the spring split. They went on a very impressive 7-2 run, and the way VictoriouSecret played this first game so far, they are in the driver's seat. Now, they're not up that much gold, 3,000 to be exact now, the fact that Kespainify was able to sell that Gold Fury for himself, but that's going to delay VictoriouSecret from really min-maxing their Fire Giant.
Yeah, what Kespainify was able to do was essentially negate that first tier 2 tower that VictoriouSecret took, but I feel like that was the first time in that whole fight VictoriouSecret went and backed. So they're going to be going back, spending a lot of gold. Now they're coming out still with Fire Giant around them for another 3 minutes and looking to push totally. There's still 4 towers on the map.
That's right. That's 4,000 gold collectively once all 4 of those will get demolished, which should be the case if VictoriouSecret just plays a 5-man unit. We were talking about it before in the early game, how much control this Chaos side really provides, and we've been seeing it thus far. This Ymir from Gorgonzolla has been really impactful.
Dzoni looping around the back. The wall, though, does force him out, and Burrito looked to make a stand on the tier 1 tower.
Not wanting to really give this up for free, they forced out an early Nemesis ultimate, but the self-sustain from Mr. Stefan and the Fire Giant buff is topping him off. 5 healthy members from VictoriouSecret still looking to siege the tier 1.
And Fusify looping around the left, as well as Dzoni looping around the right. The wall to keep him out for the moment, and then the blink in. Sibi counter jumps in with his ultimate in the back line as well. FaraKrik sends his ultimate through, not able to get too much out as 2 members are stunned in the front. FaraKrik establishing the front line, and everyone backs to square 1 as FrostiaK continues to push in. Tier 1 tower, it's real low here, Totally.
It's real low. It will finally go down. Gorgonzolla using his ultimate just as a zoning mechanism for good measure, but they're all still really healthy here from VictoriouSecret. They're now going to continue to the tier 2 with Spudio's ult.
Spudio does drop down the Suns. The wall from Ymir is enough to keep them all zoned away. Half health is the tower. Good stun. FrostiaK gets credit for the kill on the Sibi, and they continue to push. Dzoni, though, might be a little bit too far forward. That shield's enough to keep him back, but the pull back in was better. The wall does separate Dzoni, so he'll be okay for the moment.
Dzoni with the clutch beats there, preventing the pushback after the pulls. VictoriouSecret are just on an absolute tear right now, 4-1, but despite such a low kill count in this game, it's been very dynamic in the last couple of minutes here with this tower sieges after the Portal Demon Fire Giant. This challenger team looks like they've been playing in the SPL.
VictoriouSecret did get the tier 1 and tier 2 in mid, now taking the tier 1 in left. They still have another minute left on this Fire Giant buff, and I don't think VictoriouSecret, without having Sibi, want to fight on that tier 2. Instead, they're going to back. They trust VictoriouSecret in the back as well, regroup, and be ready to defend when that Fire Giant respawns.
I think a problem for Burrito was that FaraKrik did no damage with his ultimate. Everyone from VictoriouSecret was just ready and
There's no
willing.
control for it.
The damage wasn't really quite there yet. He does have the penetration available with the shard, with the pen boost. It's just not quite enough yet. Still sitting at level 17. Not only that, like the way VictoriouSecret was just kiting in and out of that tier 1 tower, Burrito just really wanted to hold on to it for a little bit too long. It's only 500 gold. The position of that tower is not going to save you at this late game anyway, as a kind of like a safe haven or a home base. So you might as well give up the tier 1 and then hard defend the tier 2 instead.
And we're talking about the builds for those mid laners, Tolly. Mr. Stefan does have that Rotted Tahuti finished off now. In these engagements, he's going to be riding all kinds of damages, particular with that Supernova ultimate. So I'm looking to Mr. Stefan with some setup from Gorgonzolla, FrostiaK knockup to really come up big for him.
It's a lot easier for Stefan to go this kind of glass cannon build by rushing the Rod of Tahuti as opposed to Hide of Urchin, simply because you have your self-sustain when you're generating and building your heat from your first ability, and then you're also having your Disapparate, which is going to increase your mobility, give you those very important invulnerability frames for a couple of seconds.
Kespainify takes a little bit of poke. Sibi, though, is the one that gets frozen. No immediate follow-up from Gorgonzolla, but the wall and the ice carpet are good. Fusify goes up to the open. It's FrostiaK in the back who blinks in as they were trying to take down the Portal Demon. Dzoni gets pulled back into the Suns from Spudio. Sibi, though, cleans up Mr. Stefan. That's a big kill for Burrito.
Oh, and now going on to Spudio, forcing out the Aegis very early on. Members from VictoriouSecret were too busy in the front line, not protecting their back.
Better ultimate that time from FaraKrik. Kespainify gets set up to clean up FrostiaK, and he's still going. Kespainify almost full health. He's barely been touched in this engagement. Spudio finally, though, gets the turnaround, but has to jump on out of there as Burrito win their first team fight.
That ricochet from Spudio actually buying him a moment there, forcing out the Aegis early from Kespainify, and just like that, what looked to be a 3-4-0 here could easily find some more kills because Spudio is healthy. Sibi's low, FaraKrik, and Kespainify
unable to contest the Portal Team, but Spudio does does to lead FaraKrik off the good pull from Julio. Set him up, and Spudio goes in and gets the double kill by diving on. He does eventually fall, so he won't be able to pick up any more, but Julio's looking for more.
He wants to find Kespainify, but instead recognizing that he's not going to be able to chase down that hunter any longer. FrostiaK wanting to maybe go for this engagement, but Sibi has other intentions. He's going to back to base, and now Johnny's left alone in a 1v1, but the Portal Demon is going to bait Julio.
It is. There's a lot of recovery here. He does clean up Dzoni with his ultimate. Sibi, though, is here as well. Kespainify going to be really tough for Julio to get out of this one. He's running for his life, totally. Good dash for him to get away. Already given up his Sibi, and Kespainify also backs up as Mr. Stefan is starting the Gold Fury.
The wing blade from Julio buying his life for a second time yet again. Too much baiting from Dzoni, really wanting to find a kill there, recognizing that they did have the Portal Demon available, but instead not able to make it happen. There was that boulder was not truly calculated. The Aegis, I believe the bees were potentially still down at that point, so he wasn't able to pop the Aegis in time.
But Julio and Spudio coming up really big for VictoriouSecret. The fight, as you said, was 3-0 in Burrito's favor early on that engagement, but they stuck around. Spudio gets a double kill. Julio does end up cleaning up Dzoni on the end of it, and that creates enough space for Mr. Stefan to rotate over with FrostiaK's help and pick up that Gold Fury. So despite that fight not going in their favor, they're still up about 7,000 gold. They still came out of that engagement looking good.
Still Fire Giant available, and anything can go. If VictoriouSecret lose this next team fight, they're more than likely going to lose the Fire Giant, and this 7,000 gold or so that they've built for themselves is going to slowly diminish, considering there's still 5 towers total from VictoriouSecret, amounting to 5,500 gold.
And it's real aggressive positioning from Burrito so far. The stun comes out. That's going to mean Spudio's the target, trying to jump away, but the sprint comes out. Way too many members of Burrito around. Sibi is the one that ends up cleaning up the kill onto the hunter. Mr. Stefan has his Aegis forced out, and they don't care about the tier 2 tower. They just clean him up. Where was his team, Toli?
They were trying to help the front line, but instead leaving their backline exposed. 3 dead members out of VictoriouSecret. They were in the driver's seat, and just like that, they lost this last important team fight before the Fire Giant's about to be started again.
And they're reminding the Challenger Cup team there's a difference when you move up to SPL caliber play, as Burrito clean up 3 kills and they continue to zone away. Julio and Gorgonzolla take down that Fire Giant in the back for free. Sibi under some trouble. 3-man freeze comes out. Sibi able to get out of there, but Dzoni cleans up Gorgonzolla in the back. Make that 4 overall, that fall in favor of Burrito.
Burrito are just on another tear here in the end game, showing us why SPL caliber play is always superior here. The challengers were not prepared to play defensively. Playing too aggressively at every stage of the game is not ideal. Leaving your backline exposed will be exploited. Spudio took too much damage too quickly. His relics were not used. I'm assuming they were on cooldown earlier on, and that means it's going to be a free Fire Giant and a free Phoenix in the mid lane.
Spudio does drop his ultimate. It keeps Fusify forward for a little while, so he might be a little bit out of position. They got to go back through this tier 2 tower, but Kespainify able to clean it up very quickly. This fight going heavily in Burrito's favor. The whole late game now in their favor. They're up now about 1,000 gold or so, despite VictoriouSecret for a while. They're looking like they were in control.
Remember how 2 minutes ago you said VictoriouSecret had about a 7,000 to 8,000 gold lead? Yeah, that's out the window now. Burrito controlling the pacing here. That spike back up into their favor. They're just really able to go into the backline and find people out of position. Spudio cannot get left alone like that. Spudio and Stefan need to play off of each other a little bit more and try to melt whoever from Burrito is trying to be that frontline engager.
And think about it, Toli. Burrito have been doing those Fire Giant dances against Obey, against Dignitas, against Energy. They know how to fight over there in that solo on that side of the map, around that objective, even when they're down. They've done it against the best in the world. So when VictoriouSecret come in and don't play it perfectly, Burrito were ready to capitalize.
Even finding a win off of Energy as well. So it's not the end of the world here for Burrito whenever they're down. They find ways to get back into it. And now it's VictoriouSecret playing on the back foot. Nice pull push, though, onto Dzoni.
And that sets up a kill. Mr. Stefan cleans that one up. Julio is very low. Blink in one more time coming up from FrostiaK. He gets a 4-man knockup. Gorgonzolla is here with the ice carpet over over the top, but has to back out now is FrostiaK. Mr. Stefan does drop the Supernova. It's not quite enough to clean anything up off the top, but FaraKrik is also really low.
He's left alone, but Mr. Stefan gets blown up by Kespainify. That's a 2-for-1, or 1-for-1 rather, at the end of the day. Left side Phoenix still being engaged on by VictoriouSecret. They have to go back to their fountain before defending.
And the Fire Giant just too strong to keep Burrito sustained up. They move into the Phoenix. They take down the mid and the left side Phoenix. Julio, though, he's been a tanky monster all game. He wants a little bit more. The stun from Fusify, that must have been max range. Not quite enough to set up the kill, but just showing dominance.
And now forcing a lot of minions to be dealt with in the middle lane. That's what happens when you leave a lane exposed for a little bit too long from these Fire Giant minions. Not dealing the most damage in the world to the Titan, but that's going to force now more attention towards the middle and the left as the right side Phoenix will be looked at.
You know who knows all about that?
Who?
ALG, man.
Oh.
We'll be seeing them a little bit later on in the day. We do have plenty of Gauntlet action coming here for you. As Burrito, though, looking like they could hang around in this fight. Even when they're down, it was 7,000 gold at one point, Toli. Burrito ready to come back and try and take it to VictoriouSecret. They certainly have not won this matchup yet, but it's looking to be in their favor. Phoenix in mid, Phoenix in left have already fallen. Only Phoenix on the right is the structure left standing for VictoriouSecret. Fire Giant going to fall off in about 30 seconds, then a minute till it respawns. Likely, we'll see the fight there. Do VictoriouSecret defend it?
Around the Fire Giant?
That's right.
I believe as long as they can shove left and mid hard enough to prevent these Fire minions from getting anywhere near their Titan, they could potentially look to hold if Gorgonzolla is at the right place at the right time to cut people's positioning off. But the way these last couple of teamfights happened for VictoriouSecret, they were so far overextended that they left their backline exposed. So I'd rather see them protect their backline instead of trying to cut off Dzoni, for example, or even FaraKrik.
And we've seen it happen. We've seen Mr. Stefan or Spudio get deleted in these engagements before they can really have any kind of big impact, as Johnny's able to take down this Portal Demon without any kind of contest from VictoriouSecret, who are more focused, as you said, on keeping those minions out of their base. And from their positioning, it looks like they don't want to be here for the Fire Giant. In 30 seconds, Burrito will be able to go back, use the Portal Demon, come in and start it up.
It seems to be like that's the case as well. Beyond the 30-minute mark, beyond the 75,000 gold mark collectively for a team, gold is insignificant now. It doesn't matter that Burrito has the 6,000 gold. What matters is how well VictoriouSecret can hold. There are a lot of level 20s there. Only Gorgonzolla from Victorious not on that mark. Same with Fusify on his side. And this last objective, not the Fire Giant, because I think Victorious is going to give this one up, but the last objective around the middle and right side Phoenix is where Burrito's going to try to make their final push.
And Fusify is already pushing the minion waves up, trying to create some pressure along that right side lane so VictoriouSecret can't just sit back and wait and get everything farmed up, as Burrito take that Fire Giant and they're ready to push down this weakened Phoenix in mid and the one in right.
No, so that ticking time bomb that we were talking about was the player damage coming from FaraKrik on this Vulcan. Now finishing off Rada Tahuti, trying to get some Spear the Magus action going on. Mid Phoenix was respawned inside a weakened state. Very easy for Burrito to clean that one up, but the right side one is full and healthy.
This is where VictoriouSecret are going to want to make their play. Julio almost catching Dzoni with that knockup. We've seen him do it a couple times and pull him back into trouble, so fortunately he was able to avoid it.
That could have been a clutch opportunity, because if you force the beads early from Dzoni, the rest of the team fight could go in the way of VictoriouSecret, but not able to find that means that they have to defend this. Full 10 relics per side, full ultimates on both sides, but Fire Giant on Burrito.
Mr. Stefan's going to be
damage.
Real important member of this fight. It was a lot of damage. FrostiaK already blinking in. Ultimate from Julio doesn't really hit anyone, but they're still fighting on the Phoenix in the back. Two-man freeze comes out from Gorgonzolla, but the return damage on the VictoriouSecret is just too much. Two members already had to run away, but there's no damage on the Phoenix just yet. Can't say the same for FrostiaK.
FrostiaK was just zoning a little bit too far away from his teammates. He's going to be the first victim of this engage. The right side Phoenix was barely touched, but the left side Phoenix falling to Fire minions because of how much attention is on the right side of the map.
There's no way for VictoriouSecret to handle all three lanes at once. That's what Burrito are counting on, as Mr. Stefan gets deleted by Dzoni, who goes in deep under the Phoenix. Now they're looking to take it down.
That's 2 dead from VictoriouSecret. It's a 5-on-3 for another 35 seconds before FrostiaK revives. They have the damage necessary to get the Titan. The question is, how do they want to approach this? Because Kespainify needs to be protected. He's the one dealing the damage, but he's at half health.
Sibi is going to be the front line for him, paired up with paired along with Fusify. Rotating on the left is Dzoni. They're trying to split the focus. Don't let VictoriouSecret make one stand or one push. Now the mid lane minion waves are here with them. That's going to be the call. Ultimate comes out from FaraKrik, and that's more than enough to clean up game one. Totally, VictoriouSecret looked good to start it, but Burrito looked good to end it.
That's true. Burrito, they just exploited how aggressive VictoriouSecret was in the later stages of the team fights. You can't play the late game team fights the same way you did in the early game. It was very easy for the damage from the Vulcan to start doing its work there, and we're seeing the kills here. It was a 4-1 in VictoriouSecret favor once they started rolling off the map with that portal demon, with the fire giant. The also problem was that they got tower short, but they didn't get any phoenixes with that fire giant.
And look at these assists. Even though the kill numbers aren't too far off, the assist numbers way off. That to me says Burrito was just fighting as a team a lot better.
They found the multi-kills in the later stages around that portal demon. Everyone from VictoriouSecret was just a little bit too isolated, and they got taken advantage of. There was not much that they could do once Spudio took like all his health pool, used his beats, but still ended up dying anyway. That was the turning point of the game.
And that was something you mentioned very early, was that Burrito's composition maybe didn't have quite as much control of VictoriouSecret, but it was going to have plenty of damage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The damage was just too real. FaraKrik on the Vulcan, Dzoni on the Nemesis.
Yeah.
Even if you don't necessarily get a lot of enhance after the fact, you're forcing the sprint from the Nemesis ultimate almost immediately just to disengage. And then once the sprint is disengaged, that's when you're looking for those enhance. Late game Nemesis is no fun to deal with.